Tour de France sprinters. Now, last year was an absolute chaotic race in terms of sprinters. We had Sagan and Cavendish gate, where Sagan, Diddy, elbow Cavendish, etc., etc. That has been gone over about 7,000 times, so I'll ignore you on that. I won't be going into any more detail on that. We also had Kittel crash as well. Kittel crash, and then he also actually abandoned the Tour de France. So at one point, you know, Sagan wasn't there, Cav wasn't there, Kittel wasn't there. So a lot of other sprinters got an opportunity. Not the least, Groenewegen, he did well, picked up the last stage on the Champs-Élysées. You also got Michael Matthews hitting out well, and Bosenhagen as well. But anyway, this time I'm just going to go through all the teams, basically from, I'm not sure how they're ordered, but this is, I'm just looked through Pro Cycling Stats, just checked out any sprinters, what teams they've got going, just looked at, you know, that Palmares, what they've done recently, and my thoughts on them all. So anyway, Fernando Gaviria, the whole team's basically for him, so real solid blokes like Bob Youngles, etc. We're just going to lead out. Also got Riqueze, all the normal quick-step lads. 4 Giro stages last year, won the Maglia Ciclamino, looked pretty good in California as well, won a couple of stages there. So for me, I think he's probably going to be the guy to beat. Yeah, I really do think. I think it's between him and Cav for me. And I think he's looked very convincing. Cav, not as convincing, but you can't really say anything about Cav. In terms of like pure speed, I think he probably is one of the fastest. Occasionally he cannot get undone by tactics, but quick step with their lead out, it's real solid. I think the combination of Gaviria is just pure speed and sort of track craft, and then just the lead out from quick step. I mean, you just know what you're getting. With 1K to go, they're just going to come storming up with 3 blokes, and you're just going to be a cry if you're on the front. Then we have Andre Greipel for Lotto Soudal. 11 Tour de France wins, a couple stages in Belgium Tour this year. He looked good in the 4 days at Dunkirk, won an uphill finish, which had a lot of climbing, so obviously he's got good condition. But for me, he hasn't looked mega convincing. Like, his team will be good for him for sure, but I don't think he's really going to feature that much. Maybe might get a podium or something. We'll get a couple podiums maybe, but I don't really see him winning a Tour stage this year, unless there's a lot of unluckiness, well, sort of people getting unlucky, crashes, etc. Just because he just doesn't really look in the same form as usual. He hasn't really performed in some of the races that I expected him to do, especially the early season classics, because he had an injury. So yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the injury has definitely knocked him back a bit. But anyway, he's always like there or thereabouts. Then we have Lotto NL Jumbo with Dylan Groenewegen. Now he's got Timo Rosen, who I think is a very, very good lead-out man. I think he's becoming one of the best around. He might be like, oh, it's a bit premature, but I do. Some of the ones he did early season, I did a video on it. I think it was Abu Dhabi Stage 2, potentially. I'll try and link it if I remember. That was incredible lead-out by Timo Rosen. So I really think that sort of new style lead-out where they just smash it with one bloke about 500 meters to go. You don't need anyone else. Because obviously the team's also slightly going for GC with Primoz Roglic. That's all stages. Because Hessing's there. I mean, he doesn't have great. I guess Paul Martins, Timo Rosen, and Janssen Grondal, whatever his name is, they'll be his main lead-out men. Because like Kreuzberg, Hessing, Roglic, they're not going to do anything. So it's going to be tough for him for sure. He also won Kern-Brussels Kona this year, which is just indicative of good form, because you don't win spring classics if you're not on good form. So I think Groenewegen will probably pick up a stage, in my opinion. I think he's going to do well. Winning the Champs-Élysées last year, that was a real highlight for me. And I think it confirmed to me that he is a world-class sprinter. Before, I was like, he's good, but really, he is actually one of the best. Obviously, the competition wasn't crazy, but even so. All right, next we have Arnaud Démare, who won a stage for the Tour de France last year. That was the stage where Sagan and Cavendish had that little altercation. So I wouldn't really read too much into that. He's got a solid team, but nothing like nuts. I mean, I still think Quickstep probably have the best team. So for the sprints, I mean, he podiumed in Milan-San Remo and Ghent Wevelgem this year, which is pretty good. And the team is pretty much for him. I think there's David Gaudu, who's like a 56-kilo climber. And pretty much everyone else is just for him. And Arthur Vichot is always a good, Jacopo Guarnieri, Lejac, Leveson, they're all got good blokes. He might be able to pick up a stage, but I'm doubtful. There are, I think, 8 or 9 stages for the sprinters this year, so, it's quite a lot. Tour de Suisse, he looked all right, not incredible. I think he picked up a stage, though, the last stage, so, it's looking good for him, to be honest. I feel like he should just get a couple podiums. Maybe in some of the more slightly tougher ones he could do better, but again, I'm not sure he's going to be winning hundreds of stages. In reality, I don't think anyone's going to pick up all 9 or all 8, obviously, but I don't think there'll be one sprinter who necessarily is on top form, because I don't think any of them have been too impressive, but obviously it's hard to tell. After the first sprint, or first 1 or 2 sprints, you'll then be able to tell. Mark Cavendish, for Dimension Data, got the whole team for him. No one's messing around. Everyone's just for him. Tommy Slagter and Serge Powers maybe a bit more climby types, and everyone else is pure lead out. So that's really solid for him. He doesn't have anyone messing around. You just know he's going to peak well. Like, you know he's going to be there or thereabouts. It doesn't, even last year where he literally had barely raced, he was still like coming top 10 in the sprints. It's like he's always there. Cav will get some drama down him, you know, try and crash or get through a gap that's not there. But for me, I think Cav is, I don't know. I really think maybe this year he might not pick up a stage. I really hope he does. Yeah, I really hope he does. I just feel like maybe his condition hasn't been great. He's had a lot of crashes again. He might be able to pick up a stage. Maybe he'll build into it. I don't really know. Cav is very hard to predict, but I think predicting him for one stage probably isn't that crazy. But I'm really excited to see what Cav's going to turn up, because the sprints are always like, you know, you get some indication, but with Cav especially, you don't really know until it's on the Tour de France. And it's like, comes down to the last K, and you see he's in good position, you're just like, all right, fair enough, he's going to win. Because he has that just ability to just see gaps and save energy and just use the energy when it matters. And he's a pretty calm bloke, so it's all good. Next we have Marcel Kittel. Again, I'm just so meh for him. Like, he changed teams and he's just looked not good at all. The team's not even for him. They've got like Zakarin, who they're going to help. I mean, he's won 14 Tour de France stages, so that's pretty solid. He's won 2 stages in Tirreno. He looked average, to say the best, in California. I don't really know if he's going to win a stage. Kittel seems to be one of those blokes who's like real emotional. Like, Sheldon Priest, he was going nuts because he couldn't win, and like, it's like, man, just chill out a bit more. He just seems like such a, I don't know, there's something about him where he just like is either on form, insane, or just like can't win. And for me, I don't think Kittel's going to do very well in this one. He might pick up a stage maybe, but I don't really think so. He just doesn't look there. I mean, he'll probably come and win like 10 stages. I mean, I sort of hate predictions because sprints are real hard to predict. But like, again, I don't think Kittel's in the best form. Then we move on to Peter Sagan for Bora Hansgrohe. 8 Tour de France stages. He'll always be there. Looked pretty solid. Tour de Suisse. Tour of California wasn't great for him. But you know, in those uphill finishes like Mur de Bretagne, things like that, he's always going to do well, I think. Maybe Mur de Bretagne might be a little bit too hard, but like, you know, with that bloke, he's probably going to win a stage at least, and he's probably going to win the green jersey unless he crashes out. So that's just, will he win a pure sprint stage? Maybe at the end when everyone's a bit more tired, but I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He's always there or thereabouts, as I always say, with Sagan, because he does love a good podium. Now we move on to a slightly questionable person to put in, but Magnus Cort Nielsen is going as Astana's main sprinter. And he's had some pretty good, like, early season results, to be honest. He looked good in the classics for me. Tour de Yorkshire he won as well this year, which, you know, it's not a mega race, but it's not bad either. He's won twice in the Vuelta a España, 2016, I believe it was. I think it's going to be interesting. He might be able to get a podium, maybe a top 10 or something. He looked good in like Tour of Abu Dhabi, I believe, when I did the commentary on Groenewegen. That was good, actually. He like really came on strong. Then we have Nasser Buhani, who's like, I mean, do I even want to talk about this bloke? He's just so, like, you know, it's just so fiery, that bloke. Anyway, he's actually won 3 Giro stages, 2 Vuelta stages. Like, his team think he couldn't even do a Cyclo Sportif because he's so unfit. But then he somehow managed to win a stage, in the Route de l'Occitan. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe a top 5 on a stage. I wouldn't give him much. This team, do they really want him? It's going to be interesting. Then we have Michael Matthews, who has won 3 Tour de France stages. He won a couple last year, I believe. He's looking good on the TTs, which I think is always, if the sprint man is looking good in TTs, they're in good form, because that means their threshold is high. They'll come to the end of a race a bit more fresh, and that's the main thing in the sprint. Just come to the sprint more fresh than anyone else and just bang out the top numbers. He came second in the Tour de Suisse stage, and he also won the Tour de Romandie Prologue, which was sort of suited to him. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. I think for me, it's going to be interesting because a lot of the stages he was doing well in, like the main sprinters weren't there. I think he might be able to get maybe a couple top 5s, maybe a podium or so, but I don't really think he's going to win a pure sprint stage, just because there are faster guys out there for sure. Like, he's sort of similar style to Sagan, where like they can do very well on sprint stages, but it's hard for them to win a real pure sprint stage if all the big guns are on form, in good position, and really just like there. My last sprinter that I picked out, there are a couple I've missed. So I've missed, like, for Bahrain Merida, they have Sonny Colbrelli, but I don't really count him as a main, pure sprinter. He's more like a sort of half there. Direct Energy, I mean, you don't really know who's going to sprint for them, but Adrian Petit potentially could. But again, I don't really see that. I mean, there's like, Who else? Daryl Impey, but I don't really count him as a sprinter. Nicky's aunt might go, or Phil Bauhaus. They might go. I don't know that team. Fortunately, Samsic don't really have anyone. Sky, no one. I mean, that's pretty much all the main sprinters I could come up with. For like pure, flat stages. I mean, obviously rolling stages is a little bit different, while it's a select group, but those are my main ones. So we end with Christoph. Now that boy, I don't quite know what happened last year, because he just seemed to be, basically, Katusha were just like, you're fat, and he was like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because I'm a sprinter boy, and they were like, yeah, but you're fat, and then they just end up having a massive falling out, and then he just didn't do well last year at all, and it was just like, well, that's a bit weird. His team is also split, which with 8 riders, I mean, if you're a sprinter and your team split, it's always going to be hard. Like, Dan Martin is there, and, like, to be honest, their team's pretty weak. I mean, really, Durasek might be able to help him. Ferrari, potentially. Marco Mercado is good. Rory Sutherland and Olivero Troya. So, yeah. I mean, Darn Atapuma is going to be absolutely 0 turns on the front on the flat, and Dan Martin the same. So I don't really know what this man's doing. Maybe he might win the cobbled stage, potentially. It depends if Greggy Boy and Sagan decide to light it up. I don't really know. He's won 2 Tour de France stages, but they're both in 2014. He's had 4 wins this year. He won World Tour races in Abu Dhabi and Eschborn, Frankfurt. But just I don't think he's going to do well. I don't think he'll even get top 5 necessarily. Pure flat stages, he just doesn't look good anymore. I don't really trust the man at all. He's got 0 lead out. He's going to be burning energy. He's just going to be there or thereabouts. Maybe gets to 7th place a couple times. Don't rate him at all. So anyway, what are your thoughts? This has turned out to an outrageously long video. If you've watched this whole thing, well done. But yeah, do you actually think that Cavendish will have the form? Who's your favourite? I think Gaviria is going to pick up the most stage wins. Then probably I'll go Gaviria for most stage wins. Then I'm going to go Cav, and then I'm going to go Groenewegen. I'm going to go Wild. I think that's going to be who's going to do well. But anyway, cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow, which will be about the breakaways / mountain classifications sort of thing. Also, sprint sort of green jersey. Sagan's going to win the green jersey. Anyway, cheers for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.